Hello, and welcome to the TheDarkNest Podcast. I'm your host, TDN Horror Stories. As always, I'm joined by my feathered co-host, As the Raven Dreams.
Hello.
And today, we have a guest that also happens to be bird-centered, which is funny in most ironic way. And also, just like my co-host, is a workhorse and is known for her consistency and passion that she puts into her content. Please give a warm welcome to Raven Reads.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
It's awesome to have you on. I've been dying to actually have a conversation with you for nearly 2 years.
Yeah, same. Passing on Twitter, like, hello.
yeah. It's always been like mutual, like, hey, yeah, your stuff looks cool. Like, but it's never like we never got to sit down and actually, to talk. So this is really interesting. So, from your point of view, how do you know about me? Where did we first come together? Like what was the first time that you saw me? Because I know what it is, but I would like to hear. But I would like to hear from your point of view.
So I had it was right after I started my channel. Basically, I think I had 56 subscribers.
Yeah, that was the fucking most insane part about this. Considering where you are now.
I don't even know who I am anymore. Okay, and so I was just like, I had a stroke one day and was like, maybe I could narrate. And then like Mort had a contest and I had another stroke and was like, maybe I should try. And then now I'm here. I don't know how it happened, but in the course of that whole contest, you were there. Mm-hmm. And I remember that I was like, oh, there are other narrators. Like, this is very fun. Like, it's cool to meet other people. And then I heard you narrate and I was like, I'm done. Like, that's me out of it. I was like, okay, goodbye.
The funny part is that 99% of the people vote like in the comment section, not the actual polls. The comment section was for you and Fearcrawler and Raggedy Antsy. Everybody who mentioned me hated me. Everyone.
But that's like the whole like comments versus reality thing, though. I think but yeah, as soon as I heard you narrate, I was like, well, shit. Okay, someone has an actual mic and talent. Good, I'm gone. It was fun.
When I heard all of you, I was like, this competition's gonna be fucking rough. Like, I mean, we basically all won as soon as he picked us. Because the whole contest, originally the contest was supposed to be whoever he picked was supposed to get a collab, but he ended up liking all of us too much, so he created a whole new contest where we would all compete against each other by putting us all in our own separate videos and seeing who did the best. Polls.
And he's also like, can we just like for a second, Mort is the kindest human on planet Earth. Like,
he was super understanding after I won.
So kind.
Because my actual collab didn't come out till 6 months after I won because I was not prepared again to procrastinate like I always do and do 10 stories in one sitting. And because the competition was 10 stories and the collab was 10 stories. I wasn't worthy of winning because I did not have the drive after I won to make another video. I was like, can I just sit with what I got? Because I already got one. I'm good.
Like, never mind. It was so funny too because he was so kind about it. Like, even because he messaged, I think I guess I was like runner up or something, and I don't remember now, but he emailed me and he was like, oh, like, I don't know, he was very like polite and proper about it, but like somehow like you couldn't do your thing, and I was like, he's like, would you like to? And I was like, let me think. Sure, like, I was like, yeah, absolutely. So I was kind of like, well, that worked out.
So
but
after
then he ended up I think he ended up like collabing with all of us anyway, like you were saying.
So after I neglected to actually fulfill the thing that I won, he just went to you. I mean, rightfully so. Everybody deserved to win, and that's the funny part is that we did all win, but it was just all that.
And later on, he actually, I mean, he still collab, like your thing still came out. I mean, I think I think that he had like a slot for like a collab, and then in lieu of that, he was just like, well, But then I think he still collaborated with the others too. So like he gave us all such a platform and like an opportunity.
For sure.
And it was so funny because like I think like I thanked him multiple times, and he was like, no, it was all you. I'm like, no, it literally wasn't. Like,
I dedicate half my growth.
I know.
I dedicated half my fucking growth. Like, I wouldn't have hit 1K when I did without him, because I went, where was I at? I don't remember what I was at when I first got
like 8 something, wasn't it?
No, I was at like 2.
Oh.
I was at like 200 maybe. And then after I did that collab, I went up to 5, I think. And that, which is huge to me. That's crazy. And then I didn't get back to him, and I emailed him like 6 months later. I'm like, dude, I'm not gonna lie to you. I just haven't thought about it. I'm really sorry. And I know you kind of like, you didn't have to give me any platform like or any like basis to actually grow. You chose me out of probably a lot of people. So if you're still willing, I want to do it if you're gonna let me do it. And he was like, for sure, man, whenever you got it, just send it over. Yeah. And I'm like, well, I'm doing it tonight in one sitting. And then I did it all in one sitting, and my computer shut off before I saved any of it. And I had to do it all again the next day in one sitting, and it pissed me off so much. I was like, just get it out. I don't care.
That's terrible.
So at the time, I think I was at 600, like, or maybe 7 when I sent it the actual collab to him, and he propelled me to 1,000 in over a day. Right. And he's the reason I hit 1K. Because he attributed over like 800 to 900 people to come over to my channel.
Yeah, to this day, I get people like who pop into the comments and they're like, "Oh, I heard you on Mort," and I'm like, "Could you?"
That video is buried. Like, how did you even find it? Like, I don't know what video it is anymore. It's so buried.
I know, and like it cracks me up too, because like I still get comments on like I can tell by the thumbnails that they're very old on my channel, and by the colors, sometimes I can tell they're like my first or second video, and they're like, "I love your content," and I'm like, "Oh, really?" Because that was like way early days. How did you even find this? Why is this getting recommended? But yeah, no, he's like the kindest human. He's super understanding. And like, Mort has done so much for the horror community. And him and his family are just awesome. So shout out.
So yeah,
because that's how we met.
That's how me and Raven met. And not a single point after that did we really talk.
No,
I met you during the competition.
Love your work.
I for sure thought you were gonna win. To be honest, I was totally. Let's be 100% honest here. You grew way more than I did. Like, I think
I have guilt over that.
That was the funniest part to me. Is that, oh my god, I won, and then everybody went to you, and I'm like, I mean. She definitely won. Like, she definitely, and I didn't feel bad about it. Like, I didn't feel like, I didn't feel anger towards it at all. Because, honestly, did you remember that you even submitted an audition? Because I didn't.
Yeah, I was like, I was very.
I had no idea who he was.
Oh, no, I had been following, because he was my introduction into the horror community in general. So I just happened to, it's not like I listened to every single, I mean, I wish I could, but like, I don't know the time, but it's not like I listened to every single video. I just happened to be listening to the video when he was like, "Oh, I have this contest." And I was like, there's no way in hell I'm ever going to win this or even get like anywhere, but I'm going to do it anyway. Yeah. And so I was like, I was extremely unprepared, because people talk about all the time, like, oh, you have to be prepared for like, failure. You have to be prepared for this. No, you need to be prepared for success. Because like, I was not anticipating that kind of growth. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, there are people here and I need to be like somewhat regular with my content. It's 2 years later. I thought you were joking when you were like someone who's very consistent. I'm like, who? Not me.
No,
I've
definitely.
been trying for 2 years to be consistent, but yeah, I was like not expecting that at all.
I think in the grand scheme of consistency, no. Mm-hmm. But if you definitely step back and you look at the rest of the horror community, your workload that I watch I look at your tweets. It's not bullshit. Like, I'm looking at the proof. You have anybody who has backloads of narrations has a sense of consistency and passion for what they do. regardless of how much you put it out or how like frequent it is. Consistency doesn't mean you post every day. Consistency means that you keep coming back to it with the same passion, with the same quality, with the same work. Like, that's what consistency is. It does not mean you have to post at the same time every day with the same amount of fucking hours into the video. It's the amount of passion that you consistently put into each single video. And you do. I've seen it. You have grown from the smallest channel that we had in the competition to bigger than all of us combined. So the proof is in the pudding. You work your fucking ass off. People, you can get anybody can get a shout out, but the people who actually work after it are the ones who make it. You can't just give somebody a shout out and then that person is good for the rest of their career. It's not how it works. Right. I'm not consistent. That's why I'm still where I am. It's because I didn't do what you did. You doing what you did is proof that you are cut out for this shit.
Thank you.
So.
Well, thank you. I do work hard. You know what my thing is? It's the dumbest thing. My thing is editing. I hate editing. If I could just mind, I don't know, get my head in a space where I'm like, I love editing, I could be more productive. But it's like I like narrating, so I'll narrate. This is fun.
Now, how do you do it? Do you do it like the typical way, like you'll record all your stuff and then go in and edit afterwards?
Yeah, I have no idea what's typical, so I might be.
That's definitely typical. That's definitely.
So what I do. Okay, I'm kind of I like data, and it's very hard for me to organize anything. So I have spreadsheets for like everything in my life, from like Animal Crossing, like winter measuring star dates to like this.
Wait, hold on. No. There is a overwhelming amount of similarities between you two, and it's actually fucking insane. Did you know about this?
No, I had no idea.
What? So, you got all right. So we're gonna start from the beginning here. So your name is Raven Reads because of the Poe story. Yes.
My name is sort of. My name is Raven Reads because I needed a name, and before I did this, I was doing some like freelance work with like digital publishing. So I would get do covers for them from graphic design, or I would do interior formatting for self-publishing or whatever. And it was in sort of the dark fantasy horror genre because that's what I write, even though
Poe is it's a reason. It's there because it's definitely a factor.
My name for that business was Ravensong Digital Publishing. So I always had sort of a Raven thing going on. And then, of course, I made the connection of like, well, I should just run with that because Poe's a thing, and I was like, that'll work. That'll be just fine.
So Raven also is a Poe fan. So he definitely, his is based off of Poe. And he's also a workhorse. He is... Yes. He fucking grinds consistently. But you want to know what else? His whole life is run by spreadsheets, including his fucking video schedule.
I love it. Yeah. No, I have so
it's like it comes with the name. Like it's I already knew there were similarities, but fucking it's like you're the same person. Like
yeah, so I'll explain how my process works, and then you can tell us how eerily similar we are, because I have a feeling it's probably something similar. But like basically, I have like I wish I could show you because it's easier to just show. But I basically have like a schedule for like a spreadsheet in Google or whatever for each month, and then each tab is the day, and then I have the stories listed out. I have like video code names, so they're all saved to the same files and shit. And then I just go down, and then I have like I give codes to all of the different stories, so I know what I've done before. And then I just pull from the recordings if I want to do a collaboration that people will then complain about. Not a collaboration, a compilation. That's a whole other thing. Most people like them. Like the data, that's a whole other thing. Anyway, I'm getting off topic as usual. It's how my brain works at all times. It's why I get nothing done. And so, then I'll just go through and I'll make a list of like, okay, I'm recording December like 11th through, 30th, right, today. So I'm just gonna like do all these, and then I record them, and then I go into Audition, and then my editing is basically just removing the background noise, going through and removing the breaths because apparently me breathing is obnoxious. So that's fun.
So do you live edit
like
the cuts, like as you're recording, you cut it, or is it you go in afterwards and cut it?
No, I go in afterwards. And well, I mean, each story is its own file, but I go in and I do all of the editing.
Yeah, no, that's why I'm asking, because me and Raymond
Yeah.
both do the live editing thing where we, as we're recording and we fuck up, we stop, we cut, and then keep going.
With that, no, I would annoy myself even more than I already do.
The funny part is I've tried to convert people to it because I feel like it's way easier. I tried the other way. It makes me go brain dead. I can't do it.
Yeah.
So
I used to do that where I'd be like, oh, I messed up, so I'm gonna go in and cut that out. But then like I'm the kind of a person where like if I have to like I'm much better at doing one thing for a long time than I am at like if you came up to me and you were like, I need you to paint this wall and the next wall and it's the same color and that's what I want you to do for like 8 hours, I would be like sweet and zone out and just do it because like I'm very like my brain works like an assembly line. So
but
I'm
if
like
paint half the wall and then come back tomorrow and paint the other half,
that would drive me insane, you know. So like I have to do like all the recording on one day. And then there's the thing too with like I game, right? And if I'm playing Diablo 3 or something, my lovely graphics card fan is like, it sounds like a damn jet engine. So it'll turn on and then I'm like, I'm not recording with that because I'm not editing that stuff out because then I sound like I'm underwater. It's like a whole thing. So then I have to like shut my computer off. It's not a bad computer. It's just a loud ass fan and then like restart it. So I'm like, no, we're doing all of our gaming stuff on one day, doing all of our recording on this day. I'm going to edit for 12 hours this day, like whatever. And that's why things are so spotty because often I just don't do those editing days that I'm supposed to do. And then I get behind and I'm like, great. But yeah, spreadsheets are life. I wouldn't get anything done if it wasn't for those. Yes.
Yours are actually slightly more in depth than mine are. I used to be a compliance governance person. So I have all of my stories that I need to narrate and all the ones I have narrated and every request I've ever sent in a spreadsheet, all separated by tabs. And then a second spreadsheet for the entire month and what goes where on which day. So I'm not quite as in depth as you, but I think it's a very similar process. And
you're probably more efficient.
I don't know. I don't know about that.
As soon as I get permission for a story, I just record it and edit it and put it out in the same day. That's it. That's all.
Dark just doesn't.
On Twitter, it was a while back on Twitter, somebody was like, does anybody really like listen to their stuff back before they post it? And I was like, like if I didn't listen, well, actually I didn't once. And that's why I do now, because I was like, this is a story that's in the used section. So like, obviously I've used this before, so it's edited, no worries. And it turns out it was completely unedited. The dog was barking in the background. I think I burped at some point. I don't know. And somebody was just like, your dog yapping is really making this hard to listen to. And I was like, what dog? What do you mean what dog? I like took the whole video down. I was like, good. 12,000 people just heard a completely like unedited. Great. This is fun. I'm like, how are there only 2 people that commented about this? Like, y'all are constantly down there telling me how terrible I am because I like had a mouth sound when I opened my mouth to speak. But the dog is barking and only 2 of you tell me? Like, screw you all.
Oh my God. I relate to that so hard in a different way. Because like the old creepypastas are like some of my favorites. They make us who we are. Like we wouldn't have like the whole span of things that we have now without it. And I used to have this thing called creepypasta backlogs where I would go back and I would narrate the stories that I didn't get a chance to when they first came out, like the Smiling Man and Rest and Sleep Experiment, stuff like that. So I didn't realize that when I came up with creepypasta backlogs, half the stories I was planning on doing for it were already done by me about a year prior. Because I was just starting out and I was like, I'll narrate anything. So I did a creepypasta backlogs for the Smiling Man, not knowing that I did 2 classic creepypastas a year prior and the Smiling Man was in it.
Nice.
Amazing.
And it happened 2 other fucking times, so I stopped doing the series because I was like,
never mind.
I don't remember anything.
That's so funny.
Could have just said it was a remaster or something like that.
No, I do that sometimes. Actually, I'll re-record stories, so I could totally post it as that. I've done it for one called Persuaded because I did a really shitty version of it like 2 or 3 years ago before I actually started narrating on here. And I was like, that sounds like fuck it. If I was the author, I would kill me. Like, I would stab me in the eyes. Like, it was so bad. Before I was like TDN, I did noise reduction. There was no removal of mouth sounds. There was no bass. There was no treble. There was no filter curves. There was no normalize. Nothing.
Right.
I didn't do any of that. I barely leveled the music properly. So it would just be like, and Miu would be in the background.
MIDI.
Oh my god. I don't miss those days because like I remember how excited I was for people to hear it, and then nobody watched it. I'm like, well, fuck them. They just don't know what something good sounds like, I guess. And I listened to it, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, man.
I went back
shit.
recently and I listened. Well, I couldn't get through it actually, but I listened to my very first video and I was like, ugh.
I listened to how I sounded in the Mort video a couple weeks ago, and I hate it. Like,
I don't think it was that bad.
I think I'm way better now because I have more experience.
Well, I mean, yeah, everybody grows.
My
and
pacing is
improves,
different.
but-
I have a proper way of narrating to where it doesn't sound like I'm just trying to get through a story, like I'm
Right.
actually in the story. Like every story I do now feels like I'm trying to envelop myself in it. But back then, like I was just, especially when I'm faced with 10 fucking stories,
Yeah.
first couple are gonna be fine for sure. Last one, like there's not gonna be any pacing at all.
By
Nothing.
the end of it, you're like, they went to the camp, they did something stupid, people showed up, fucking people died, whatever, the end, we're done.
That's called narrator fatigue, where you just start speed reading by the end because you see the end of the story.
Yeah.
You know when you start, you know where you start when you see
you
the
see
number
the-
of comments at the bottom of Reddit, and you're like, oh.
Anyway, that's what happened. He was terrible. Let's not meet. Bye.
I thought I was the only one who did that until I heard
No.
somebody else say that, and I said it like exactly like that. You know when you see the partition line and you see 16 comments at the bottom, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, settle. Scroll.
It's like, all right, let's go. I get
I
so
actually
excited.
have,
It's so
like-
bad. I get so fucking excited.
Me too. I have edits. Like I have stuff where I've gone back and I've listened to like obviously I don't edit while I'm doing it anymore because it's just like fucks up my process. But I went back and I listened to one earlier and it was like I think I pulled a blooper from it for like the next blooper set. But I was like somebody had gone through like 2 full paragraphs on the layout of a house that didn't actually matter, which it usually doesn't.
Oh, I fucking hate those.
And
I
so I was like,
I
I
have
was,
such a
I
good
was
one.
listening to this back, and I was like, across the street or across the like hall from the bedroom was the oh my god, nobody cares. Like just in the middle, like I couldn't anymore.
And
I
there
was
was
like,
an IKEA London desk in the corner. And
and
like,
the
oh my
lamp
God,
in the
just fucking-
back
I don't
was
care
a
about the
hand-me-down from my
smorgasbord,
grandmother, and my grandfather.
And then my
was like,
grandfather
"Well,
before
so,
him gave me a pocket watch, and it's sitting on the bedside table where I got stabbed.
Also, this is all leading up to I saw a ghost in the foyer. Like, just tell us you had a foyer. That's all we needed to know. Like,
I had a
yeah.
foyer. There was a ghost. No,
There was a ghost.
it's either
Yeah,
one or
right?
the other. You have a ghost or a foyer.
Yeah.
I have a
believe in
ghost. It's
simultaneous
here.
existence. Right. There's also like it's one or the other, right? It's either people who like just really needed to write that day and just gave way too much
Yeah.
information, or
I-
it's people who roll in and they're just like, yeah, so like this one time my friend and I went to this camp and there was like this thing and it like made a noise. We don't know what it was. I'm like,
Do
that's your
you-
story, bruh?
Do you ever have the case of like you narrate a bunch of like mediocre written stories, like they have good concepts and like but the overall presentation is like bad, like the pacing of it and the actual grammar of it is bad, and you don't
Yeah.
realize like until you find a really really good author who has
Yeah.
it's just a wordsmith who's able to make everything so easy to read that you were reading garbage before that.
No, I always knew that it was garbage because I was a copy editor and a copywriter for
Yeah.
a long time. So for me, like I'm like, I don't know, people always say like, oh, that person's such a grandma.
But that stuff like rejuvenates me. Like I'm just like I gotta find more shit like this. But it's so rare that people like that exist, especially on Reddit. Like it's like there's really talented people on Reddit. Not a lot, but there's really talented ones.
Yeah, but they're like buried under all of like.
They're buried under Raven's favorite thing, the 15-word titles.
Oh god!
I saw a ghost in the ghost in the lighthouse, so I went up to the lighthouse and I stabbed the ghost and I went back down to the boat and I went home. Like
stabbed the ghost.
TLDR is the title. It's like, bro, that's not a title. It's
my town has a secret that happens at 3 a.m. and you shouldn't go outside during 3 a.m. because of the secret. Like, all right.
Also, it's aliens.
Also aliens. Also, people are looking at Area 51. Look somewhere else in the world. That's where it's supposed to be. Like, all right.
Oh my
cool.
gosh.
We get it. And the funny part is, like, those stories have really good concepts 99% of the time. But the titles, the fucking titles. Like, Jesus.
Yeah, those are like basically like viral creepypasta titles. You have to have more your words have to be it has to be a paragraph for the title in order for it to be like viral. It's just kind of.
You remember when viral creepypastas were just like 2 words long for the
Jeff
title?
The Killer,
Ben drowned, the Smiling Man, inked, like 18,001. Like what the fuck, man? The Russian.
Could you imagine the modern title of Russian Sleep Experiment?
In the 1940s, there was a secret thing that made people not sleep, and this is my story.
Also Russia.
Demonetized.
What? Demonetized.
That thing you were the thing you're talking about, where over explaining something in a story. I can't with that. And there is a very good case that I think I've talked about on the podcast before, and my viewers know about this.
Yes.
Is the shed.
The shed.
The shed. The infamous shed. I'm gonna try to say this as clearly as I remember it. So there's a story, not about a shed. This is the fucking dumbest part, but there happened to be a shed in the story. So basically it went like this. Verbatim. So I walked outside and I saw the shed. As I was getting closer to the shed, I opened the door to the shed. As I was inside the shed, I walked back out of the shed with the shovel that I got from the shed. As I turned away from the shed, the thing was in the shed. Like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Was there a shed? Because I didn't get it.
Oh my god. I was like, I think there's a shed. I'm not sure.
No.
So I had to reword that whole fucking thing because it's at the end of the story. I'm not finding something else. I'm doing whatever this is.
Right, when you've already invested
so now I have to fix this whole it's like a paragraph of him just talking about a shed. It's like I went to the shed and then I turned around and saw the shed, and when I saw the shed I screamed at the shed, and then the fucking shed blew up and the fucking shed is all over the place. Shed. Like Jesus.
Shed itself all over the shed.
Oh my god.
Someone needs to put that to music, like the I don't know. Like the I don't know if you guys are familiar with this channel, but it's the Lord of the Rings parodies, but it's like to Lord of the Rings or something. They spell it different. And they have like this like Gandalf dancing to a sax and stuff.
Yes.
Gimli. Yeah, I love them. But like they need to do somebody needs to do something like that, but with like either stories like that, or as we were briefly discussing before this, the comment section. I'm like, I need to just make a song someday of like all the like trash comments that I get in the held for review section.
Yes.
I don't even look at that. I keep forgetting it's there.
I do because it's my entertainment.
My held for review comments are stupid. It's like, it's not even stuff that should be held for review. It's like they said fuck in it, and then the YouTube is like, hey!
It's probably because you're a dude.
Mine's just spam bots.
Mine, on the other hand.
Oh my god, I can't get enough. I can't get enough of the hotgirlsonline.com that I get in my comments.
Oh, I know.
Oh
right?
my god, it's happening so much now.
Bot, I was like, yes.
It's happening so much now. It's
I got
every
a porn
video.
bot. I've made it.
On those, I like going to the timestamp to see what word triggered the bot.
Right?
Sax. Oh my god.
Yeah. No, my held for review section is fun. I used to just like, I would, anonymize it, obviously, because I'm not you know, I don't care actually because it's a public comment. So if you don't want people to make fun of you, don't be a dick publicly, but whatever.
I
But
love
like
that shit.
I used to put it on Twitter. And then, like, I don't know why I let this person get to me, but somebody in the comments was like, "Can you explain to me, please, why you make fun of people you disagree with on Twitter?" And someone else commented under it, and they were like, "Oh my God, I just went and saw it's terrible. Unsubscribe." And I'm like, "Okay, let me explain to you for a second.
Thank God.
Hold on. Like, first of all, there's a door. Secondly, what? Thirdly, let me explain to you the comments, right, that were on there. So the first comment was a dude who basically said something along the lines of like, I want you, like, it was a deep woods story, right?
Mhm.
Apparently you can't say that if you're a woman on the internet because it prompts people to consistently tell you what kinds of things they would like you to do to them in the woods while you read to them.
God.
I don't know if this is some kind of fetish, but these people need to get out my comments.
Lady
So I put
Spicaria has a
that-
very, very consistent basis of that
ridiculous.
too, as well.
Yeah. So I put that up and I was just like, you know, bruh, right? And or it's entitled people who are like, I'm so tired of hearing ads on your 7-hour video. Like, it's free. So you can sit through the ads or you can pay for premium or you can, like, I don't know, spend, I don't know what you're doing with your time, but like, really, like, you can't sit through 30 seconds
That's
of
the
an ad.
thing.
So like, I
That's
put
a
that
constant
up.
argument. Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, this isn't people I disagree with, right? People I disagree with are the people that, like, I mean, if someone rolls into a comment about black-eyed kids and they're like, they're vampires, like, I disagree, but I'm not going to make fun of you. Like, that's your opinion. Like,
Even though it's fucking wrong.
Right, like, whatever, even though you're wrong. No, but like, people who are just straight up like, come fuck me in the woods, that's not an opinion, that's an assault. Like, I'm sorry.
It's like, I'd rather not do that. Like,
I don't think so. And then somebody else, like, there was some other dude who rolled in and was like, so, like, do you read to your hut? First of all, I'm not married, but I might start acting like I am just to get rid of some of these
I love
fools.
that shit.
I
don't think it matters. People like that
Yeah,
do not give a
no.
shit. They don't care.
No, but you know what? This is a tip for women who travel solo, just like because this has nothing to do with anything. So that's on brand for me. But while we're on it, like, I have this ring that sort of looks like an engagement ring and I wear it when I travel because the guy, this is how you know if you're in a shit situation or not. Okay. You flash that to a guy who's hitting on you and he walks away. He's okay. He just made a mistake. He didn't know. Right? You flash that to a guy and it doesn't do any good. You need to run because that guy has no decency. If he's like, "Oh, you're engaged, that's okay. I'm still gonna keep at this." Like, girl, that's a travel insurance policy for you right there.
I just really wish that wasn't a thing that anybody had to worry about. It pisses me off.
But the thing is,
so
though,
much.
like, I don't think it's so unpopular opinion. I don't think it's most men. I really don't. I just think they're the ones that are like.
But when it happens,
out
it's the thing of the fact that the internet is a thing now, and the fact that the people who are the craziest they get the most attention. So they're all over the place because of that.
And they're loud.
You give them a fucking platform to be a fucking creep, they're gonna be a fucking creep, and now they're everywhere. So now everybody looks like that. Oh, that guy does it. That's definitely everybody else.
And it's sad too because I feel like I don't know, like. You can't say these things as a woman, I think, because then other women get mad at you. But like, fuck them. I think.
Fucking say it.
Yeah.
Fucking preach, girl.
I feel bad for a lot of men these days because I feel like we live in a society where like there has been so much crap done to women, right? And then these people had platforms and then the whole, like, all this other stuff, you know, happened after it, and movements that maybe started out being really good ended up becoming like, also, let's just destroy men as a thing that exists. And now it's like just normal guys who are just like, hey, can I take you on a date? It's like, creep. And it's like, no, not everybody that likes you is a creep. It's what they do when you say I'm not interested that makes them a creep. Like, you know, like it's bad because I'm like, it must be such a terrible.
I 100% agree with that.
No,
but
like,
I also
it's
agree
really...
that there is a definite danger for a lot of women in a lot of places, especially in city areas. Is that
of course there are,
they shouldn't have to, but it's totally necessary at the moment to make sure that you protect yourself.
Yeah. And but like the coolest thing, like I don't know how, like I went traveling to, where was I? I was in San Francisco, I think, like a couple years ago. And it was interesting. And I was walking around, by myself. I'm short too. So like I think people just look at me and are like, probably not a lot of upper body strength, like, and so I was walking down the street and this guy was being weird and following me and, jeering and just like doing the normal thing. And so I was like, I can lose him because normally it's pretty like they're not that motivated, So like if you cross the street or you like do whatever, they kind of leave you alone. And this dude just like wasn't having it. And there were like 3 or 4 businessmen who basically surrounded me and they were like, you work with us for the time being. And I was like, thank you so much. So
really
for
nice.
every guy who's out there like being a creep, there are also men who will, and women, but there are also men who will like step in and be like, this is wrong. So like I feel like those men need to get more credit too because they do exist. Like I've had construction workers like step in for me, like I've had like really good things happen. So it's not there is a lot of threat and it can be dangerous, but at the same time there are also good people. Like I don't know, Stephen King tells a story about how like he would watch the news as a kid. He'd be like, there's so much bad in the world. And his mom would tell him, look for the people doing good because there are always people doing good. And I totally agree with that. I think that's a true statement, And then, of course, there are the women who are just like, girl, and we have each other's back. But that's been a known thing for a while.
Yeah.
Like, you get yourself like some women with some attitudes and some spike heels, and it's fine. But but there are
it's really scary. Like I don't live near my girlfriend, so anytime she goes out at night, I'm terrified.
Yeah.
Because like I'm always like, bring your knife, bring anything you have. Like she has to walk the dogs at night, so like I know that. So I'm always like, make sure. She's like, I got it. I'm like, I know you got it, but I need to make sure you got it. Like bring some with
right.
you. Like please, anything, because I'm terrified. Every time she walks out of the house at night, I've heard the stories. Like she's told me stories where it could have gone bad. So like
totally.
It's I'm so glad that she has dogs with her, but I don't know if they'll actually do anything, but I'm just anything. Bring something with you. And I hate that that's like a worry that I have for my girlfriend, that she walks out of the house and like, fuck, man. It
like
sucks.
That should not be the thing that puts you in danger.
Yeah,
I left
for
the
real.
house as a woman. Like,
I left the house to go get a sandwich from Subway, and then I came back with 5 people following. Like, Jesus fucking Christ, keep your dick in your pants for 5 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks, and it's like I think like I don't know. I wish that just in general the dialogue could be. What's frustrating to me is like, I mean, I've been through stuff too, and it's like, I think 3 out of 5 women have, unfortunately. And it's like, I think though that the discussion around how people behave toward, women or whatever in society, whether it's online in the comments section, which, oh my God, or if it's just like actually walking down the street with you, or doing whatever, needs to be changed to like education about behavior and like how you can step in if you see something like that, and not just like, well, men are trash. No, they're not. Some men are, also some women are, also some whoever you are. Like people can be trash because people are. There's a huge problem because apparently women are like products, and you don't really see women stalking men down the street in the same violent way that it sucks that that's a thing that exists. But I think on the whole, there could be more productive conversations around prevention and protection and keeping your eyes open, rather than just like crapping on an entire like segment of the population, because I feel like there are really decent men in particular who will step up and do the right thing. But then when we're caught in this dialogue of like, well, if you're a guy, you're clearly just out looking to hurt women, then those people are maybe less likely to want to intervene because, then they've been roped into it. And I feel like that's unfair, just as a human, I feel like that's unfair. I also don't think
to
that
band
makes
together and hate something than band together and love something. It's a lot. It's always been that way. It's a lot easier to hate than love.
Yeah, it is. Well, which is unfortunate.
I was gonna say that negativity getting the amplification that it gets. It's whenever, like you said, people may not do anything to step up and help because of being concerned about what light they would be cast in by helping, I guess. And it makes sense in a really sad and twisted kind of way.
Right. Like you can understand it from a self-preservation aspect. Also, it's
That's a
sad
better way to put it.
that's a thing, you know. But I mean, like even with like I feel that way sometimes, even though it's probably would be less strange, I think, for me because I'm a woman, but like seeing a lost kid or something, right? Like everything in me is like, oh my gosh, like where's your mom? Are you okay? But then there's always that little part of me that's like,
If
oh, if
someone
I
catches
step
me
in
talk
and
to this
someone
kid,
catches me talking to this
this
kid, yeah, are they
it's
gonna
gonna
be
look like,
like,
hey, little boy, what are you
hey,
doing?
want a lollipop?
Yeah.
Right.
It's like,
you know,
oh my
and
god,
like,
no, I'm just trying to help this kid find
I
his
was
mom,
just
and now everybody thinks I'm a pedophile. Fuck.
right. And it's like that's that, but that I
That's a
think is
true fucking like that's a real fear. Like
Yes.
because we live in a society that can't look at data and assess a situation and calm down for 5 seconds and ask a question. Everybody, we live in such a trigger happy cancel culture, like, you know, problematic. Like, not
drop somebody
everything you
immediately
disagree
without
with is
any
problematic.
drop somebody immediately without any evidence.
Right.
I'm so tired of that, and it's happening so much
Right.
more frequently as of
And I
late.
get
And
it. Like, I understand to an extent, especially this year.
whatever
Like,
happened to innocent till proven guilty, though? Like
no, like
that's
my
just
whole yeah, like the whole thought process on that is like, okay, there's two sides, right? On the one hand, I get that people, like, especially this year, right? Like, people are freaked out, people are scared, people have been locked inside. Like, I get there's a lot going on, and people are just like keyboard warrioring their hearts out because that's where they're like spewing their discontent, right? But then there's a bigger conversation to be had around like, how are we comfortable treating people? Like, you can ruin, I don't know, I just watched on Netflix, I binge watched Manhunt Deadly Games. It was about the actual person who did a bunch of like bombings and stuff and like at the Olympics, and I don't know, a long time ago, but in Atlanta. But the person that they had that basically saved hundreds of people was completely thrown under the bus as the person who did it for like years and finally got exonerated, but he couldn't get a job for the longest time. And it's like, we are comfortable ruining people's lives. Like, and that was old, and now it's even worse. It's like, you know, and now when there's social media and stuff, it's like you can put a picture that looks bad, or you can put like even back to like the story I was telling you about how like I posted anonymously a couple of trash comments to laugh at on the internet, and you know, somebody was like, I'm gonna tell all of my platforms not to follow you. I'm like, okay, the 30 people are gonna be fine, but like but like there are people who do that who actually have influence, and then you can completely destroy people just because you disagreed with them or you misunderstood.
There's a huge issue of like somebody getting canceled before they're able to prove their case. Like,
right.
Like the initial evidence is shown that this person did something, and at that moment they're done. There is no coming back from it. They are stained forever. There is so many people who have tried to come back from false claims, and it never works because the community already looks at them like the majority of people look at them like they're a monster. So before the person's even able to prove their case, they're done.
Or people look at things without context, right? So like if you have somebody who routinely posts satirical comments on Twitter, and anybody who follows them understands that they are kind of poking fun at something that's real or trying to jokingly bring light to something that's real, if they say one thing that's off color and people don't look at the context and they don't take the time to look in and see like, oh, well, what does this person actually do on Twitter? Like, what is their brand, or what is their like thing? Like, what is it that they do? You know, they get completely shut down. Some people can even lose their jobs over a tweet that maybe wasn't actually even that big of a deal, or maybe was making the point that everyone else was making, but they just didn't take the time to ask a question and be like, hey, what did you mean by that?
A good example of that currently is Swamp Dweller. I don't even know if he posted anything that would have been taken out of context, or someone just hated him, but he lost his Twitter. He can't get it back. Then he's not coming back. He already said it. He's not even going to try because he's been so done with the Twitter scene because it's just always backstabbing people, and especially for someone like him who is constantly like memeing, he's under fire like every 5 seconds.
Which is like how did we get so?
How did we turn? How did Twitter turn Swamp Dweller, one of the most prolific and kind and supportive people in the whole community, and they turned him into dust on Twitter?
Right.
Like, he doesn't have that voice anymore because some dipshit decided he didn't like him for 5 seconds and shut his whole shit down.
Right. And I think that's like, we have progressively gotten to a point just societally, I think, where we're not allowed to disagree about anything. If you disagree with me, you're an insert slur here. And it's like, you know, even like, not to get, you know, political or whatever, but it's like there are, you said politics canceled. But like,
great,
there
now
are
my
like, now you're going to be taken down.
Now the podcast's over. Goodbye.
Single-handedly ended. Great. Yeah, but like, even with like politics, it's like, well, you're either a you know, certain kind of supremacist or you're Antifa. There's nothing in between. And I'm like, hold on. There's a whole group of people, like a whole range of like very nuanced political beliefs and like how people came to those beliefs. And
the majority of people are not
those things.
Polar opposites, right?
So, at some point, I would like to talk about consistency with you, in like the form of, I don't know, thumbnails, maybe. Something I have commented on to you a couple of times, and
yes,
I want,
very energetically,
as someone who at the moment has kind of quote unquote made it as a thumbnail artist,
right,
for a bunch of narrators, and is constantly trying to tell people how to improve on their own. You got it. Like,
thank you.
You figured it out. You figured out how to make a thumbnail that's not too complex and doesn't have a lot of work that has to go into it, but make it so consistent and so recognizable. I can see your thumbnail off of a feed and immediately know it's you.
Thank you.
Because it's the same thing with Swamp Dweller. Even though I'm doing his thumbnails and I'm putting more work than he did into his, even if he didn't ask me, you can look at his thumbnails and know exactly who it is. It's the white and red text. It's the blurry swamp pictures in the back. You know it's him. It's legible. You can tell what's going on, and it does exactly what it's trying to do. Your true scary story stuff. You know it's true scary stories. You can see the number of the volume. You can see what it's based off of, like the topic underneath it. It's simple and it works, and you do it all the time. And I can't figure out how to fucking do that. As a thumbnail artist that gets paid to do it, I cannot figure out how to make a consistent set of thumbnails and not get bored by doing it, because I love making thumbnails. Like, that's my favorite part of the video process. But
me too.
but make it so recognizable, and like, normally I don't think that would work. It's constant blue all the time. It's one note. But why does it work? I can't figure that out. But you did it. You figured out a way to make a consistent set of. Is it hard for you to make those?
No. So basically my biggest thing was trying to figure out the font, actually, because I had been using one before that was just a little bad. It was bad. There's a lot of words, but like, it was just sort of it was trying too hard to be horror, you know. And I feel like for me, I'm kind of like a chill horror narrator. Like, there's always rain and ambiance and whatever, and I kind of wanted to like give that vibe. And also, so this channel is in conjunction. I have 2 others now. It was just the gaming one, but it's a whole thing. And the color gradation is teal, purple, and pink. So this is the teal side. So I knew when I set that up, eventually, if I ever decide to risk it and put my face on the internet in that way, I know what my studio will look like, and I know it'll be a blend of those 3 colors. So I wanted one studio setup to go with everything that I was going to be doing on the internet, if that was a thing. So I decided on the blue because it was chill and it was also kind of creepy, and it's
easy on the eyes.
It's actually it's just a color map in in
I can tell
Photoshop.
I can tell what you're doing.
Yeah, it's just
I can
horror
totally,
blue.
yeah.
That's it.
And I love it. I love it so much. And like my favorite bit about it, and I'm looking at it right now, is that as soon as you post a thumbnail that doesn't look like your normal format, without anybody having to look at the words on it, they immediately know it's something different.
Yeah.
Your bloopers has a big blue circle. That's
Right,
different.
yeah.
Completely different to all the other ones. And now they're reading like, "Oh, why is it I'm not going to click on this yet. Let's see what it actually is first." And it says bloopers and you're like, "Oh, okay." Or the 2 hours of true scary stories with no music. It's black and white. That's not your normal color scheme. So the person who clicks on it now doesn't even have to read the thumbnail to know that I should probably read the title before clicking on this, because maybe I'm not going to like it.
A certain point, and hopefully at a certain point they'll, because like even with the no music versions, like it's a black and white, but the halo around the text is still the same blue, and it's the same like format or whatever. But hopefully people will get to a point where they're like, "Oh, that's the no music version." I just try to link them in the
like
thing
I
now,
can scroll
but,
through. Like if I hit on your video tab and I just scroll through, anything that is not the same is like it's a different thing. Like your Night Marathon is green, your Color Out of Space thing is purple. Like it's not your normal. It's not your normal thing. So I can immediately tell that I should probably read the thumbnail before I click on the video, because I might not like this, or it just might not be what I'm used to.
Yeah, I tried to use the purple and orange, I think it was, for the fiction. Now I have to go back and fix some of them in the past, but yeah.
So you're a fan of H.P. Lovecraft. If you weren't,
of his work,
you would not spend that long narrating The Color Out of Space, one of his longest stories.
That was a trip. Yeah, I didn't really know what I was falling into when I started reading that, and then I was scrolling and I was like, "Oh Lord, okay, well here we go." But yeah, I love his work.
It's just I've been doing H.P. Lovecraft stuff for over a year, and like I always pick like the half hour ones or less, because I can't. Like, I want to do Shadow over Innsmouth so bad, but it's so fucking long. Like, the Call of Cthulhu, I want to do that so bad, but it's so short stories, my ass. Like, fucking liar.
Bitch, that's Bella, okay? Yeah. Like, that's not. Let's be real.
I want to do At the Mountains of Madness because it's one of my favorites. I love that fucking story so much, but it's a book. Novel. It's not even it's a novel. It's not a novella. It's a novel. That thing is like 200 pages.
I also love it. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I know I bitch about comments, but it's only like the loud minority of people who are like, there's the trolls, right? Most of the people on my channel, like, and I feel like most horror narrators feel this way, but like most of the people in the comments and like on my channel are amazing, and I love them, and I'm so glad they're there. But then you have the really like loud ones who are just sort of entitled, and there's always like a couple people who are like, when are we getting Dracula? I'm like, it's a book, okay? I'm trying to do this like,
when are we getting Dracula? You mean the thing I have to probably get a fucking license to read?
Yeah, I mean it's public domain, like, so you don't, but it's like, but it's still
I'm just
like
saying, as a general concept. I've had people like, "Hey, can you just like narrate this story by Stephen King?"
Right.
No.
It's not Lori. No.
I'm good. This is property of his brain. Like no. Like he sells his stories to film students. That's all we get.
Yeah, and it's like when people like on an art channel or because I don't know, I do art and stuff too, and they'll be like, can you draw Star Wars? I'm like, not if I want to monetize it. Like, I don't want.
Yeah, that's another thing, is that I've had people like, hey, can you put this character in the thumbnail? No,
I can't.
Why? Because he's a licensed character. That's why that's what Photoshop is for. If I can just slap a fucking character into anything, I would.
So, I hate that I've actually seen a number of large narrators use people like Jigsaw in their thumbnails. It kind of bothers me, to be honest with you. Or like Jason, Voorhees or Myers or whatever. Like, why would you use a licensed character in your thumbnail? No.
They don't realize that they can if somebody sees that, they can get shut down for it. Like, that's
right. while the odds that are low, it's one of those things where it's like if that studio sees it, they could absolutely message you with a cease and desist, or they could just be like, "Hey, copyright claim everything on this video because you used our image in the background."
Like I've seen, it's the same people who do the like the abandoned at Disney type creepypastas, and then put like fucking just a normal picture of Mickey Mouse, not even like a decrepit. Like if you at least edit it, it's no longer like exactly the way it was. That's the point of Photoshop. You're supposed to
it becomes a derivative.
You're supposed to be able to do that. As long as you edit it to the point where it's obvious that it's no longer the original, you're okay. Somewhat.
Right. Like
there's still like some things, but
like Bendy, I don't know if anybody's played the game Bendy and the Ink Machine, but
I
like
played the first one, yeah.
That is very clearly heavily inspired by like 1950s.
Oh yeah, like
Disney.
Original Walt Disney stuff, yeah.
But it's like clearly also not Mickey and Goofy.
Yeah, they don't use the same names. Like they use the same shapes, but Bendy doesn't look like Mickey. But he's clearly Mickey. So
it take 5 seconds and put your own like.
Yeah, but I've seen people just slap Mickey Mouse on thumbnails for those abandoned at Disney things.
Or like
whatever you think you're gaining in like clickability, you can lose in as fast as a click if like the wrong. Just not worth it. It's just not worth it.
100%. I'm super anal on thumbnails. If there's anything I'm anal on, it's thumbnails. Like people are constantly like posting like, "What do you think I should do with this?" And I'm like, "Stop." Like, no, I'll help people out, but like, there's another like consistent problem in the community, which I've addressed it a couple of times, is that people really don't like to hear constructive criticism in the horror community. They hate it. They take it as, not everybody, I'm not saying everybody, but there's a majority of people who take it as like I'm attacking them or somebody is attacking them. Right. Like, no, we're just trying to tell you that your stuff is good or has potential and has the potential to be better if you just listen to not only my tips but everybody else's. And like,
I don't get that either, because like I was completely the opposite way when I started
so was
out.
I, yeah.
Like I was like, because I remember even back like in like the Mort competition or whatever, like after the fact, we were just talking about a collaboration or something, and he gave me a tip on the way that my like channel page was set up, and I was like, done. You know, like I would never have thought to be like, don't tell me what to do. Like, yeah, he knows what he's doing. Like, you know, people who have been doing this longer than you and are trying to help you. Like, and the other thing that cracks me up too is like, there are people, not a lot, like you're saying, but I've had other people who like, they'll DM me or whatever, and they'll be like, and not just honestly seeking collaboration. I love that. I want to collaborate with as many people as possible, but people who are just like, oh, well, like clearly because I'm doing this subject and you're doing this subject, like I'm entitled to just like, like, you know, will you shout, like you're clearly just going to shout me out. And I was like, well, why would I do that? Like, I don't know you. I haven't worked with you. I haven't seen your stuff. You're not engaged. I have no idea who the
fuck you are. Leave me alone. Thank you. Bye.
Right. And like, or people who will just like show up like on your channel and tell you all the things you're doing wrong when they're like haven't posted in 6 months. And I'm like, listen, why don't you work on your own shit before you start pointing fingers at mine?
Yeah,
like, there's a way to engage with the community, and it's not begging, and it's not like, so there are people who are just like overtly that way. But then if you're like, oh, okay, or they'll be like, can you like help me with my channel? And I'll be like, okay, well, I think you should do this, that, and the other.
And they're like, no, I meant a collab and a shout out.
That's my brand.
No, I didn't mean like tell me how I should do it. I meant get on one of my videos so I get more things.
And by advice, I meant, can I just sort of jump on the coattails? And I'm like, no, that's not how anything works. If you want to collaborate, like if I see people like, I don't care how many subscribers somebody has, we all had 0 at one point. So like, if someone's engaging with the community like normally, and they're actually like trying to be productive, and they're making friends, and they're like putting content out, and they're working hard, like I'll collaborate with anyone. Like I love collaborating with people and meeting new narrators, and like growing my own the community like as a whole grows that way. And people who understand that like I don't see this as like this isn't a competition, it's a community. Like no one only listens to one narrator. That's not how anything, or maybe somebody does, but like most people
fucking voice
don't.
crack.
Well, I don't know.
I don't know about that one.
About to go Yoda
I
on
don't
our
know about that.
I only listen to one.
One I do.
Listen
Yeah,
to one
but
I must.
I like, we're a community, right? So like, if you engage with the community, like, fine, great, awesome. Like, if you show up with like 2 touches of humility, like, that would do you some good if you're trying to learn
Like,
from
I
people.
don't understand how people just like, hey, can we just like fucking do this? Like, I'm so timid when I ask for things, like, especially authors. Like, I'm super fucking timid. Like, especially with like if I'm trying to collab with someone that I really, really admire, even if they're like smaller than me. So I don't get it.
Yeah,
Well,
I feel the same way.
I'm incredibly timid as well. Dark, whenever I mentioned that we should get Raven on this podcast, didn't I tell you to ask her?
Oh yeah.
even though
You
she and I have
probably
actually
talked. Yeah, you
communicated
probably have talked to her more than I have.
Right.
That's
And I was like,
cute.
yeah, go ask her, Dark.
Yeah. Well, I'm.
You ask her. No, you ask her. No, you ask.
It's like, all right. So, are we gonna get this guy on the podcast? I don't know. I'll ask him. Wait, what? Yeah. I had told Raven that when Let's Read came to me and asked me to start making some of his thumbnails, at one point I thought it'd be really cool because I've always wanted to talk to him. I've watched him for years. Raven watched him for years, so it's only like I want to talk to this guy like one-on-one. See, but pick at his brain. See what it's like to be that big and like what his process is, and so I'm like, instead of paying me for one of the thumbnails or even like 2 or 3 of the thumbnails, how about you come and sit on our podcast? And he was like, yeah, you also want to be in a video? I'm like, I fucking love some of you guys. Like, some of the people who are, like, so intimidating are so nice.
I know people were like, for the longest time, like people have been saying, well, I felt that way even about like Swamp Dweller.
Swamp
Someone
Dweller
was
is
like,
intimidating as fuck, but he's actually one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life.
So nice. And I was like, so I asked, and then people for the longest time, like, you know, people will be in the comments like, oh, you should collaborate with this person or that person. And someone was like, people have consistently been like, you need to collaborate with Let's Read. And I was like, okay. Like, you know, I'm just like, no thanks. Like, I'm so, not because I don't want to, but because I have that same like timid thing where I'm like, I don't want to be like
massive.
Hey.
Like,
Yeah.
if I put myself on that video, I am putting myself in front of thousands of people that I've never heard, like, that have never heard of me before. And now they just get to rip me apart. But his community is actually really his audience is super nice. Joel is one of the sweetest people in this. Let me put you into perspective if you've never actually talked to him.
Can I go get some coffee?
Oh my god, it was so sweet. So before the podcast, he gets in. He's on point with the sound check like that. He was right there. So he gets in. He's like, hey guys, after the sound check, is it cool if I just go make a quick cup of coffee, and then we can get started? And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, if I said no, would he just sit there? Because that's what it sounded like. It sounded like if I said, no, man, we got to do this shit now. He would probably like, okay, all right. And then he just looks over at the coffee pot like, later, I guess. Like, oh my god, he made me feel bad for like he's so sweet. Like, oh my god, that
Joel glances over at the coffee pot for
Joel has been one of the coolest people I've ever worked with, because he's done so much for me in the short time that I've worked with him. He's given me, without Joel actually like commissioning me for thumbnails, I wouldn't have made thumbnails for people like Mr. Creeps, and I wouldn't be Swamp Dweller's salaried thumbnail maker. Like, he opened up an entire avenue for me.
So what we're saying, Raven, is you should message Joel and ask if you can be in one of his videos.
It wasn't even the narration was just like a side thing. Like, I wasn't like, of course I was excited. I was in Let's Read's video. Of course I was excited. But like, I love narrating. I really do.
Right.
But my main focus of narration is really like for me. Like, it's on my channel and like people who watch my stuff, and like that's really what I focus on quality wise. But I have been trying for years to work on like something creatively that wasn't just talking into something. Yeah. Like making I love making music. I love narrating. I love making videos, but like I'm so tired of making that my one creative output. And finally, like I've gotten good enough to where people start recognizing that I can actually do this, and he saw that, and now that I have a signature and like people can now see like my signature and everything, I can now go through Let's Read's channel and see my work like that, and that'll be there forever.
Right.
I probably won't remember the video that I was in because of how many videos he posts, but I bet you I can just scroll through for hours and stop immediately as I see what is mine. Yeah. And that's the coolest thing to me.
Post music too?
I do. I'm a. I hate saying it. I'm a rapper.
You can't say it like that. You gotta own that shit.
No, because it's like it's because like every time a narrator says he's a rapper, people are like, oh, for fuck's sake.
You're like, I am a rapper.
Yeah, you said that very timidly. Like that's not very rapper-esque, my man.
Well, then listen to my music and realize that I'm not timid. That's just because that's what a rapper has to do in the songs. Okay, I don't have to be fucking intimidating all the time.
Dude, when I found out that Swamp Dweller did metal, I was like, what?
He does like.
And it's like metal, you know. It's not even like he's not messing around. He just went straight for it. I was like, oh.
That was another cool thing I got to work on was the PR for him and Unit's albums. Like that was so fucking cool. Oh, yeah. So
you know what?
Awesome.
I actually think like if somebody's like, oh, I don't know about being on someone else's like channel and their audience, like honestly, don't get me wrong, I'm super grateful for ever being on Mort's channel, but it was so fun to read another audience's like responses, like, and some of them
I went through that video's comments like all the time. Oh, like the first week I was constantly going back.
Well, I was on there. He invited me back for something. It was like a Skinwalker video or something. And somebody in the channel was like, somebody in the comments was like, something along the lines of like, not this bitch again. And I was like, yeah, this bitch. She's here. What do you want? And it just made me laugh. Like, I think.
Like, oh, for fuck's sake. Can you just go away?
Most of the people were like, oh, I'm so glad, or like, oh, I subscribe to her too, or like whatever. But there's always the one that's just like you're like, you too, buddy, you too.
I look at like I love working with like people that I admire, like just like Swamp Dweller, like him asking me to be on his stuff sometimes is really cool, and you know, Let's Read being on his stuff is really cool, and just anybody's channel, even if they're smaller than me, just being on another person's channel is really cool because not everybody has the same audience all the way through. So not everybody has heard of me. So being on Swamp Dweller's channel was a huge eye-opener for me, realizing that my pacing wasn't proper. Well, maybe not proper, but it wasn't what everybody liked to listen to, which is a lot more slowed down. And I like to read a little bit quicker than most narrators.
Problem too.
I found a way. After being on Swamp, all right, Let's Read has a great audience. They're so sweet. Swamp Dweller does not, and they know.
Yeah.
And it's fine. Yeah. Because they know, and Swamp knows, and everybody's cool with it. They tore my ass up every chance they fucking got, no matter what video I was on, no matter how hard I tried, there was always something to pick apart. The only things I listened to were the ones that were consistent. He reads too fast. So I'm like, all right, I have to break down how I can read the way I'm comfortable and the way my audience knows me for being, but also try to make it so if somebody else comes from Swamp Dweller's channel or any other part of the community and they're used to the way they read, they'll listen to my stuff and they won't feel like off-put by any of it.
Right.
So
and I think
that's been a huge process.
There's a struggle in reading slow without being like a trope. Because I think people who read slow are like, good evening. And I'm like, stop. Just no, please don't. I mean, maybe two people can get away with that because they like started it, you know, and it's like, okay. But like whenever like there are some people who just, I mean, but like at the same time, there's an audience for that too, right? Like at the end of the day, there's an audience for just about everything. So it's like, you know, whatever, if that's your gig. But if there's like consistent feedback on something, then I agree.
Yeah,
I'll listen to that
100%. And I worked on that as much as I could. I'm still working on it. I'm always trying to improve like my videos every time I post something. And there's a good example of an entire audience, including myself, that watch Mr. Creeps. And I love Mr. Creeps. And I love the stories he picks, and his voice at first was really off-putting because he doesn't have the normal, like, the sentence that he's reading ends with a lower tone to let you know that he's ending the sentence. It's monotone and there's no elevation to any parts of the sentence. So, like, it's really it's kind of like Nexpo. It's a little off-putting at first. So there was one point, and I was just like, yeah, I'm definitely in a weird minority here. Because there was one point that he read the story, and it's not just this one video. It's like every video has this at some point where he just, like, there's a gap in what he's saying, and then I just think the video ends. Like, I think that's it. Like, that's how the video is about to trail off, and then I'm about to click off, and I hear him for a second, and I'm like, what? Wait, but now I'm broken out of it. Like, I'm not paying attention enough now because I thought it was over.
Yeah. I think, like, there's I feel like there are sort of, like, best practices, right? Like there is in any sort of industry or whatever, or genre. But I always think it's kind of fun to go through and hear things like that because you learn a lot based on what you like and what you don't like.
Right.
And, like, I think you learn a lot based on what other people like and don't like as well. But at the same time, the other side of that, because I agree with you, but the other side of that is that, like, it's kind of also cool to be like, wow, there are so many different, like, completely polar opposite at times, like, styles in this community, and they all have audiences, which is super cool too.
Yep. Completely agree.
But yeah, the horror community is awesome. Like, it's so funny because, like, I don't know, whenever I meet someone, like, whatever context it's in, like, it's always funny when people are like, oh, so what do you do for a living? And I'm like, well, like,
I tell spoopy stuff to people and they like it sometimes.
Well, I read scary stories on the internet. People are like, what?
And you're like, what?
They're like, oh, horror? I'm like, no, but we're really nice. We like cookies and wine, and we're just...
Everybody thinks... Like, that was a thing that I've heard from a couple of people. Like, when I got into the community, I thought everybody was just a bunch of fucking psychopaths. And I'm like, well, we are, but we're not assholes all the time. Like... like somebody thought when they talked to me that I was gonna be like, fuck you, like, leave me alone.
I think people expect, like, it's so funny too because, like, people will be like, so do you accidentally talk in your narrator voice? I'm like, how many voices do you think I have the energy for? Like, I have one voice. Okay, this is how
God. That was weird when I went to HorrorCon.
My narrator voice for you.
And me and Raven got to see Nightmind. And he talks identical to how he talks in his videos. The issue is that when he talks in his videos, he sounds like he's about to tell me something I wasn't supposed to know.
Right.
And that's how he talks normally.
So funny.
It sounds like he's about to tell me a conspiracy I was never expecting, and it's gonna blow my fucking brain right off my face.
The entire time. He's super polite, but it sounds like he's reading a script based on what you're saying.
Yeah,
it's like, how are you scripting this conversation?
Yes. How do you have the responses already ready? What the fuck? It's yeah.
That was good stuff.
That's so fun.
Yeah, it was really cool.
I don't know. This community is great, and, like, it's just really interesting to me because, like, I think most people when they're like, oh, because even as as somebody who writes as well, although I need to get my shit together and publish my own stuff and maybe narrate that, I don't know, I should probably do that at some point, but like, writing dark fantasy and horror and stuff like that, people and, like, even if you tell people, like, I think being a woman, people expect you to sort of be, I think they're like, when I say to people who don't know me, like, oh, I'm a horror narrator, I have a horror channel, they're like thinking Morticia with the T, like that is like what, and I'm like, no, trust, if you like, right, okay, so 60% of the reason that I don't, like, really show my face on the channel is, like, because I get enough weirdos without that. I might at some point, but honestly, I'm like, if this is what my voice does to you, we're not gonna just introduce that. That's weird. Right. But the other part of it is, like, I am so disappointing. Like, I think that whatever you're imagining I am is probably a lot better than what it is, because I think that what people are expecting is that I'm some, like, I have just, like, I don't know, like, Angelina Jolie-esque features and long black hair, and I'm just, like, intent, and I'm like, I'm the least intimidating person you'll ever meet. Like, you know, I'm not, like, if I ever did show my face on a channel, I would probably make a character out of it. Like, I'm still me, but it would not be how I leave the house because it's boring.
Right.
I'm boring. I'm not, like, I promise you, whatever you think that you're missing out on, you're not. Just, like, come up with whatever you want to. I kind of like that in a sense, and I think that, like, even in my own writing, like when I write characters, I try not to describe them physically too much because I like people to be able to insert themselves into a story. It's why I like silhouette art so much, because you can imagine yourself there. You can imagine anything you want there and you can make it your own. So I kind of like that I'm a character and that people don't know. And I'm like, just keep not knowing. Like, it's fine. I promise I'll be disappointing. Like, the stereotypes that I think people have about horror narrators or people in the community in general are kind of hilarious because we're all just a bunch of nerds that found each other, honestly, at the end of the day.
We're really not as like
right there
creepy
with you.
or like outlandish as everybody sees from the outside. Like, it's really just like I like weird shit, but like that's really where it stops. Like that's I'm not constantly just being like, oh man, that fucking movie.
Slay someone today.
Oh, that fucking movie where that kid just got his head bitten off, man. That's whoo! That's my shit.
Yeah. No, screaming is my ringtone. No, like,
I listen to death metal all the time, nothing else, and then sometimes Kids Bop, but that's
yeah. Also, VeggieTales. What?
Yeah,
I thought you were gonna say Kid Rock for some reason.
That works too.
I was confused
because that's that's as contrasty as Kids Bop is to fucking death metal.
Had like on my playlist yesterday, I just like put Spotify on like, oh, just whatever I play the most often, just go ahead and mix that up. And there was Rap God next to a song from Tangled, and I was like, what is my problem? Like, who am I? I need
that's hilarious. That's that's good.
But yeah,
oh my God.
That's me in a nutshell. I think that's all of us at some level.
Yeah. All right, everybody. I feel like that's a good place to stop. I definitely want to have you back on because like you have a lot of things in your head you clearly want to get out, and that works perfect for a podcast because
I do that a lot.
we're able to just talk constantly. I don't think there was a single point in this entire episode where there was more than 5 seconds of silence. So, and that's perfect for a podcast. Everybody loves hearing stuff like that. So I really appreciate you coming on. I'm so glad that we got to actually sit down and talk to you and pick your brain about your whole process. I love hearing how everybody does stuff differently, especially you, because you're a rare breed as it goes for narrators, just having a consistent thumbnail basis, a consistent work ethic, a consistent passion that you have for the thing. You're not losing it yet. Like you know what you want and you're making it because you love it. It's not real. It hasn't turned, at least from the outside, it hasn't turned into fuck, I gotta make a video.
Well, thank you so much, and thanks for having me. This was so much fun.
I loved having you on. I really hope at some point you can take a break from grinding your fucking heart out for your channel and just have another chat. Just take a break and just talk about whatever you feel you want to talk about.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So Raven Reads is a narrator. If anybody in the audience that's listening right now doesn't know, her channel link is going to be in the description. Her Twitter link is also in the description. She posts some great stuff. She's also a Lovecraftian like me. So if you love Lovecraft, just go over, check out her stuff. She has narrated all of The Color Out of Space, which is a not short story. So please go check that out. Please go check out all her stuff. She is so good at what she does, and she needs more love. So for me, please, if you haven't, please go check her out. As always, I am TD in Horror Stories. That was As the Raven Dreams and Raven Reads, two birds in one place. So next week we will be back for another episode. We won't have a guest on. It's actually going to be the last episode of the year, and that's kind of crazy. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next week for another episode of the TheDarkNest Podcast. See you later.
Sleep well.